I'd like to talk a bit about the arrest that was made yesterday in Louisiana. So, according to the FBI, they arrested an individual who was represented as a Gazan national, which there is no such thing. He's probably of some Middle Eastern lineage, which I'm sure we'll find out soon. But this individual, the name is Mahmoud Amin Yaqub al Mutadi. He's a 33-year-old male. He was residing in Lafayette, Louisiana, and he was taken into custody because he was identified as participating in the Hamas-led attacks against Israel on October 7th of 2023. And this individual was living in our country, came into the country reportedly by lying on a visa application in Cairo, Egypt, and came to the United States in September of 2024 under the Biden administration, which at that time I have zero confidence that he was properly screened and vetted before being given papers to come to the United States. So people are going to say, well, how do you know he was there? How do you know he was part of this? Well, here's the issue. I would say international liaison provided us with information, is what I'm assuming, is that they have cellular site data that put his phone of record in the same area next to one of the Israeli kibbutzes that was attacked during those October 7th attacks in an area called Kfar Aza. And it was one of the hardest hit areas. A lot of hostages were taken. And this particular phone and the user, they must have intercepted some of the communications that this phone was making. But and I'll read it to you. They were heard saying, "Bring the rifles, get ready." And this individual was said to have been marshaling people to go and help Hamas attack the Israeli kibbutz area. And he was reportedly part of or a supporter of the National Resistance Brigades, which has been identified as a military wing of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. So there you have it. This individual is in our country, came here, lied to get into our country, made it through the what I consider to be marginal, if not completely ineffective, Biden administration national security screening process. So uh, I'm not sure what to think about this. I'm glad the FBI and the law enforcement partners in Louisiana were able to conduct an investigation, use the intelligence they got from international liaison, identify this individual, and take him into custody as of yesterday, removing him from our communities. So great job, law enforcement. Glad to see you guys were able to get that done. Now, here's another part of the conversation that I'd like to offer to you. Personal perspective. I was once the director of the United States government's the Terrorist Screening Center, which is a national level counterterrorism, early warning, and threat interdiction function that was formed after 9/11, 2001. So, as a former director of that interagency center, we were a primary part of the national security screening and protection for the United States. The fact that we allowed this individual to enter the country and reside in our communities after participating in the horrible attacks on Israeli citizens is a personal embarrassment to me. And it's frightening to me that we don't know who is in our country. And during the Biden years, you heard numbers of, well, maybe 11 million people cross the southern border. If they're willing to admit to 11 million, it's probably closer to 20 million. You could add at least 50% to the 11 million if they're willing to admit to that. So you have 11 million people entered this country without proper screening and vetting. Now, also during the Biden years, I've seen this number thrown around, anywhere between 300 to 400 people encountered at our southern border were on the terrorist watch list, which I used to have oversight and management of. 300 to 400 people encountered at our southern border terror watch list entries. Now, some of them were turned away, but some of them were allowed to enter the country, surprisingly, by the Biden administration, because they were playing political reindeer games and letting people into the country, trying to stack votes and do whatever other nonsense they were doing at the expense of the safety and security of the American people. So, a couple of items I'd like to put out for your thoughts. When I was at the terrorist screening center, we had a 3-layer strategy. One, we tried to stop them overseas. We worked with our State Department and Customs and Border Protection, DHS colleagues, to make sure these people never got here. They couldn't get visas. They couldn't travel. They were never going to be admitted to the United States. So we protected the American people that way. 2, we stopped them at our ports of entry and borders. Customs and Border Protection, DHS, is one of my primary partners. We worked together with them to make sure these people were never allowed to enter the United States. And if they tried, depending on who they were, they would be taken into custody, or investigative work would be done among our law enforcement partners to mitigate any threat. The third thing is if they were already in our country and in our communities, we worked with our law enforcement and intelligence partners to make sure that we conducted investigations, mitigated threats, and tried to remove these people from the threat environment to keep our American communities safe. It seems as though all of that was shut off when the Biden administration was in office. The southern border was open. The irresponsible and failed approach they had for mass uncontrolled migration resulted in this type of threat environment that we see now developing and intensifying in the United States. So I have no idea right now. I'm on the outside. I'm ordinary people just like you now, counting on the government to keep us safe. We have no idea what type of threat environment we have allowed to, you could say, form and develop inside of the United States. When we have people such as this individual who has been accused of being part of those attacks on the Israeli citizens on October 7th, 2023, the violence and the just criminality of that event, the women, children, elderly, just everybody who was assaulted, raped, murdered, children, are we looking for that to happen here? My request for my former colleagues: get your act together, find out who's in our communities, look for these people, help with the migrant operations. Let's get rid of these people. They shouldn't be here. Let's make sure we're identifying these people who pose threats to our citizens and to our community members. Let's roll them up and let's get them out of here. Love to know what you think about this. I am disgusted by the whole thing, but now it's time to act. The current administration is trying to move these people out of the country, trying to empower law enforcement to return to its protective status and not its reactive status. Again, love to hear what you think. Let me know. Have a great day.